If you walk around the city on a weekend, you have no trouble finding stores and pop-ups selling secondhand and vintage clothes.
But do you think all these people browsing know that just by buying someone's old clothes, they're taking part in the circular economy? Let's talk about it.
Can't be, it's definitely not gonna be 15.
All right, cool, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Welcome to the Circle Up podcast, where we tell the stories of the circular economy in Philadelphia.
Well, so let's circle up. I'm Candace Lawton, the Executive Director of Circular Philadelphia.
And I'm Sam Witchin, one of the co-founders of Circular Philadelphia.
In the last episode, we heard all about how Philly businesses are keeping goods in circulation for as long as possible through resale. And one of the things I was struck by was what Karen at the Resource Exchange said about the challenges related to textile recycling infrastructure.
Yeah, when we first started Circular Philadelphia, I really felt strongly that textiles should be a focus area for us. Partially because clothing and textile waste is such a colossal issue, but also because the pace of textile waste production is accelerating with the rise of ultra-fast fashion brands like Shein and Temu. In Philly alone, residents throw out almost 35,000 tons of textiles each year, and that's the equivalent of 36 pairs of jeans per Philadelphian.
But Philadelphians also donate 6,200 tons of textiles each year. That's a little more than 6 pairs of jeans per person. About 20% of those clothes and other textiles get resold in thrift stores and secondhand shops.
And thanks to the environmental consciousness of millennials and Gen Z, there's been a boom in secondhand shopping. In fact, the U.S. secondhand clothing market is growing 5 times faster than the broader clothing market. And that's according to secondhand apparel marketplace ThredUp's 2025 resale report.
The U.S. secondhand apparel market is expected to reach $74 billion by 2029.
And then there's the other 80% of donated textiles that don't get resold. What happens to that?
Well, some of it ends up downcycled into things like insulation or furniture stuffing. Some of it gets repurposed into other things like industrial rags, and some of it gets straight up landfilled. And a lot of it gets shipped to the global south.
And here's where things come full circle. See what I did there? Remember Dave Bluvman from Circle Compost, who we talked to in episode 3?
Yeah.
Prior to starting Circle Compost, he had another career in the textile recycling world.
No way. It's so cool how people in the sustainability space work across industries, but still all within the circular economy.
Totally. And to start off this episode's dive into textiles, Dave's going to give a look into the wide world of clothing and textile recycling.
Prior to Circle Compost, I had a career in the textile recycling world. The Secondary Materials and Recycled Textiles Association, also known as the SMART Association acronym. So I was very involved with that group, and that group had a mission to prevent textiles from going into landfills, which is a wonderful mission. Landfill composition was about 5% textiles. A crazy amount of tonnage every year going into landfills. Fast fashion is a huge issue, and the end of life for those products is a huge issue. I was on the board of that association for 11 years. In like my 5th or 6th year, I became an officer. So I ended up being president of that organization. And at the time that I was involved, which goes back to 2022, there were 3 divisions within the SMART Association. All members are for-profit companies. So one division, you had collectors, and there are a lot of private companies who do textile collection across the country. So that's not, I think when people think of donating clothing, they generally think of, like a Goodwill or something like that, a large nonprofit, but there are for-profit companies who do collections, whether it's through bins that you see or through actually, coming by and picking up from households or organizations, picking up bags of clothing, of used clothing. The bin side of things, that was always a really hot topic within SMART because, there are companies who do it the right way, who service those bins all the time and have proper signage on the bins, and the bins are in approved areas, approved by whether it's a business letting someone keep a bin on their lot, or the city signing off on a bin being kept somewhere. But then you have a lot of bad actors when it comes to bins, and these bins could be dropped anywhere and not serviced. Most people have probably seen it at some point in their life, an overflowing bin that has been rained on and beaten up and whatever else. So anyway, that's one side of things, the collecting of used clothing. The second division was the rag and wiper side. Essentially, stuff gets collected by the collectors, and then it gets sorted and graded. So anything that can be resold as a shirt should end up in a thrift shop of some kind, being sold as a shirt, potentially sent overseas, which that's also something that's gotten some bad press over the years. There's been some sticky stuff there where stuff actually goes when it goes overseas. But when the good guys do it and it's done right, it goes overseas and it gets worn by somebody in another country. If it's not fit to be clothing again, it's got holes in it or wherever else, it could potentially be a rag or a wiping cloth. So then you have companies in that area who cut up the product and make it into rags. And typically rags made from used clothing. And by the way, that side, fast fashion has hurt that side of things as well, because so many of the fast fashion type of clothes are made from really cheap materials that might not absorb. But if you have something that's a high percentage of cotton, it can absorb and can be made into a wiping rag. So stuff gets collected, then it gets sorted. It typically then gets baled up and sent to someone who's going to cut it. And a lot of times this stuff is moving around. The sorting, a lot of it happens in Pakistan and India. So you do have a carbon footprint there. There is some of that still done in the U.S. It's hard, and the companies who do that, I've visited them, and they're amazing. But a lot of it happens overseas. So product then would go, if it's not suitable to be resold as clothing, it could then be cut up into a rag. There are companies who cut it up into rags, box it in a 10-pound box or a 25-pound box, and you see, or shrink wrapped in kind of a pack. You can see that even in like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. They'll sell bagged rags or boxed rags. And then the third division was the fiber division. Basically, these companies would get the stuff that is not even fit to be a rag. So it can't even be made into a rag or a wiping cloth. It's just got to be, the only thing that can be done with it is to reprocess it into fiber. So the companies receiving that stuff, they're getting it in bales. They're doing the best they can to check the composition so they know what their end product is going to look like. Then they put it through this huge machinery that rips it up, breaks it down, essentially shreds it into fibers, and then they sell a finished product made from those fibers. So either they're potentially selling a recycled fiber, like a recycled polyester fiber, or they're selling usually something called shoddy. And shoddy is like, it kind of looks like insulation material, and in fact that is where shoddy typically ends up, is in various insulation applications. So I mean, when I was involved with Smart, we had some really amazing success stories, about denim being reprocessed into fiber and then made into insulation, or automotive insulation being made from various blends of polyester and polypropylene fibers. But for every success story, there's also a lot of stuff that either it can't be reprocessed for whatever reason, or if it were to be reprocessed, there just isn't an end market or a home for it. So, since I've been out of that world for a little while, I'm not, totally up on where things stand, but I know that the fiber division and the companies that process fiber were inundated and overwhelmed with material, or they were, couldn't make the numbers, the financial side of things work, and we're going out of business. It's expensive to run that equipment. You got to have good markets for your end product. So it's there are complicated systems out there. We would have professors come speak or scientists come speak, and a lot of things that they presented on, they had developed new technologies. They'd done R&D, created, whether it was enzymatic breakdown, using actual enzymes to break down textiles, or some other new technology for sorting and pulling off buttons and checking for, metal contamination. But oftentimes, those technologies were developed or discovered, but nobody had any idea how to bring them to scale. So they weren't necessarily viable as a for-profit business. That's not to say that we couldn't find ways for government to invest in those kind of technologies and help us out with all that stuff to save the planet.
That was Dave Bluvman giving us the rundown on what happens to clothing once it's donated.
So let's dig into what happens to clothes that can be resold. Thrifting is one way to get secondhand clothes, and so is consignment, where people can sell their clothes through a retail store like Another Chance in Fishtown, and then they make a few bucks on them.
I like consignment for those pieces in my wardrobe that are a little higher quality or unique, and someone might be willing to pay a little more for.
So my name is Holly Heenan, and we are at Another Chance. It is a consignment and local creators boutique shop that I opened almost a year ago. Basically, I sell pre-loved fashion. Most of my consigners are local in Fishtown, Port Richmond, Northern Liberties. So I take anything that is not stained, that's in good condition. And I accept like all fashion. So I have mostly women, a small men's section, which I always call small but mighty men's section, and kids section. I try to take anything. There's always that one person that style fits, so I will try anything. Thrifting has been a part of me since I could go to shops. I will spend hours at a thrift store versus in a mall. That started, I guess, in my high school days. My friends call me Granola. That was my nickname growing up from them. And so I actually worked at the first Buffalo Exchange in Philadelphia. I'm an accountant by trade, and I've been a corporate controller for various companies, mid to large size companies. And I went through breast cancer last year. I chose to go and follow my passion, which is a consignment shop. It was my turning point, yes. It was my dream, hence Another Chance. The clothes, get another chance. I had another chance, and I don't know if many people know this, but my daughter was adopted, so she had another chance. So we kind of have this theme surrounded me, my aura. Probably one of the best parts about this shop is meeting people that are coming in. Like, that is my favorite part, literally. As an accountant, I was stuck behind a desk, working on a computer, and I'm definitely a people person, and like just meeting everybody that comes through the door. We have a lot of fun here, a lot of fun. I try everything. I have sold a wedding dress, which I do not do wedding dresses, but I was determined. I have sold vintage nightgowns. A neighbor of mine had these beautiful vintage nightgowns, and I said, I'll give it a try. And what do you know? Somebody was visiting from New York on a weekend to visit Fishtown, and they bought this vintage nightgown that was, I think, $70. But it's that one particular person that fits that style. And it's fun. It's so much fun. It is overwhelming how much clothing we discard. There's landfills of clothing that are getting discarded. So anything that we can do to kind of repeat the cycle of life or something instead of throwing it in the trash is part of the circular, right? Circular Philadelphia. It's to me, like, even if I get things in here that may have like a stain on it that I missed, I have a $5 bin because somebody out there can use it or can get the stain out, but or I donate it to Circle Thrift, or also now I'm going to work with a family member of mine who collects clothing for the homeless. So for me, I still, even if it has like a tiny hole in it, I try not to, like, there's no need to throw it out. There's somebody else that can use it in some sort of way. I have a customer that came in, I guess a few weeks ago, who was local, that I'm gonna partner with, and he was looking for old silk napkins or vintage fabrics that he's making into t-shirts, to tank tops, which is very cool. Yeah. So anything can be turned into something, and the more that we can keep it out of the landfills, the better. And that's, I think, the beauty of the consignment industry, right? Is that if you're buying it from here, you can wear it a few times, and then once you are, it's time to give it to somebody else, come back and consign it again, as long as it's in pre-loved condition. I think there's now a lot of like the online places that you can rent clothes, which is beautiful. You also have the option to buy it, but just giving the rent that option is then, I believe, keeping it out of the landfill. So if we can do more of that, that's beautiful. I mean, fast fashion isn't new. When I was working at the British Heart Foundation in England, and that was about, I guess, 20 years ago, Topshop, like all of those, like that was all fast fashion. I think what is happening now is that now you have your Sheins, and they're so cheap, which, back in the day wasn't that cheap, but now they're very cheap, that I think it just is increasing how much is getting bought and kind of heading to the landfill. I'm not buying off a Shein, but if I saw a Shein piece in the thrift store and I like the style and it fit well, I'll pick it up. I know it's not going to last forever, but the way I think of it too is that I'm keeping it out of the landfill also. Everybody buys from Amazon, and they say don't return it. It's cheaper for them just to give you the credit for it. So I assume that is definitely happening with fast fashion. Yeah, I've seen on the local Facebook places that, hey, our buy nothing pages, right? They're like, they told me I didn't have to return this, but they gave me credit. So putting it out there if anybody wants this, because I didn't have to pay for it. I mean, I have a lot of consigners that they miss the window of returning. So I get a lot of things new with tags just because of that. Yeah. A thrift store is where you donate clothing. Usually they are, some are nonprofit and some are for-profit. Circle Thrift, which is local, is nonprofit. And their proceeds then go to a nonprofit organization to help those in need. For myself, I'm a for-profit, which is a consignment shop, and we benefit, obviously, the owner. I make money from the consignment, and so does the consignor. So they either get credit to use in the shop or cash to take home in their pocket. The consignment is 50-50 cash for the consignors or 60-40 credit. When they bring it in, I Google, everything gets steamed before it goes on the floor. I Google image everything. And when you Google image, it will tell you, even if it's new at tags, it will tell you if it's on sale on the website. So a rule of thumb is usually it's a third of the retail price that it can sell for. Sometimes new items, if they're like more of a current style, can go 50% with new with tags. Or if it's an older style, we might go a little bit less than third. In addition, sizing, right? Sizing is important too. So, we live in a society where people are more medium and large. That's more common. So the extra smalls probably get discounted a little bit heavily just because there's not as much demand for extra small. My goal is not to have to return the stuff to the consignor. So hence when I have trouble, if it's not selling here in the shop, that's why I have the online places that I can try, and that's usually where they sell. it's so hard to predict, especially I think in a consignment situation. Of course, dresses, shirts are the easiest to go. Jeans are not as fast just because everybody has that. Jeans come in so many different sizes, and a 2 in a Gap is a different size, a 2 in a different designer. So they're like probably slower to go. Shoes are usually slower to go. Sweater, we're coming up to our sweater season. I would say dresses are probably the fastest to flip here at the consignment shop, yes. Just recently, I had, we all know Freehand Art Supply, a great addition to Girard Avenue. Ron, Kim's husband, brought in these Roosevelt shirts that are a big thing. That, again, this is the fun of having this shop, because I'm introduced to new brands all the time. But they are these fun prints, and the name of the brand is Roosevelt, and they were hoodies. And it was a collaboration between Roosevelt and Pixar. And I basically put them on eBay, and they sold within like an hour. It's amazing. Like, these are the things that you just never know. Like, I was new to this, put it on. He told me like a going price, and they sold just like that. I have definitely repeat consigners, repeat customers. My consigners, I'm like saying like, hold off. I have like too much, because unfortunately my shop is on the smaller side, so I only have so much room. So they're constantly, right now I'm on pause right now, but I have a lineup for when I open the consignment again. It's for my consigners to come back. I will not have a shortage of consignment, that's for sure. And then for myself too, like one of the purpose of this too was I love sourcing myself, but I don't even get a chance to source really anymore, and I don't need to source, which, you know, again, for people that love to thrift, like that's like, we love doing that piece. Because you have to find that one piece. Like, if you go into a mall, you're gonna find the same style and different colors, different sizes that everybody is wearing on the street. When you're going to a thrift store, yeah, you might find popular styles that are out there, but also you find vintage items, like something that somebody is never gonna wear, and I can probably tell you that they're probably gonna be the one piece of clothing that you're gonna get the most compliments on. What stands out for me is there will be this like beautiful piece, like the piece like this right here that's hanging up. It is for that particular person, and I will watch various people come in, try it on because they love it, and it doesn't fit them, and then it'll be 2 months, 3 months later, that person comes in and it's theirs, and that just makes me so excited, like that piece of clothing found their particular person. Like, I think I scream every time. Like, really, like, I get so excited. I'm like, because it was meant to be for that person. That's the fun. Like, I don't mind something, because I get new customers. I get, like, as I say, tourists, but like people from New York, people coming in from Ohio, like that come in here on the weekends that have not been in the shop, and they find that item that has been here forever, and it just fits them perfectly. So the biggest challenge for me first was when I opened was in the fall, and then we went into winter. And it's a lot of foot traffic, right? That's where you're gonna get a lot of your sales from, people just walking by. So if the weather is not good, if there is an Eagles game on a Sunday, during the day, I know that we're gonna be a bit slower that day, unless there's that particular person that doesn't watch football. So it's like these ups and downs. I'm an accountant, so I have software that can track, and you can't predict a pattern. You can say, okay, the weather's going to be good. Okay, I think then we're going to be good. But then the weather can be great and then there's no sales. It's all about really foot traffic. Competition facilitates sales. Like, I have right down the street from me is Trash Vintage. They are more on the vintage side, Y2K, sports, and I have a small section for sports, but I don't see, I think we just facilitate, because if people want to come there, then they'll stop here. People come here, they'll want to stop down there, because that's what they're looking for, right? They're going out shopping for a day and they're looking for special finds and pre-loved clothing and thrifting. They're gonna shop at all of our places, and where they find their things, it's great if they find something here and not here. I love that. It just brings traffic to the area. In the beginning, I guess when I first opened, there wasn't really as many shops on Girard Avenue. I'm from Port Richmond, and I've seen when the local shops closed up and everybody moved to the burbs or to the Northeast or to Jersey, that dried up, and it's sad. To me, the biggest thing about local is I'm a small business, so I want to help other small businesses. So the front of the stores are local creators. We have everything from Ken Nichols, who lives right on Columbia Street, who has all these fun pins and posters that people can relate to. We have the 3D little figurines, which is actually Lorinda, used to be the crossing guard right here on the corner that retired, and this is her nephew. And then his mom makes the unique custom jewelry and uses some of the plastic left over that he can't use from the 3D figurines into the earrings. So again, it's just this recycling kind of try to keep as much out of the landfill as possible.
So it's super local.
Super local. that was my goal. My goal was to help small businesses make something of their dreams. We have Mr. Softy shirts over here, and we have Fishtown Stitch, and then Turnstile Arts, and then the tarot cards. So yeah, everybody is within boundaries of the local neighborhoods around here. This past year, it's huge. I have a lot of parents coming in here. I had one parent come in and was like, it is so beautiful that I don't have to get him. They have a birthday party to go to. I don't have to get in my car to go to Target. I can come to Girard Avenue. I can get little figurines for the birthday and affordable. And I can hit the plant store. I can hit the bookstore. I can hit the coffee shop. I can hit, modest transitions for knitting. And then you also have the Pokemon trading card store that just opened. It is. Yeah, we're getting the retail side now, which is very, very exciting. Unfortunately, there is so much convenience that we're looking for, because we're looking for that work-life balance, right? We're looking to maybe not be in the shops all the time, so it's easy to get on your phone and just order something to your door. I mean, we see it every day, right? Just walking down Girard Avenue, you see all the discarded packages, Amazon packages like that. That's how much we are buying. And I'm not saying that I'm a saint, because I am not a saint. I'm a single mom, and unfortunately I will buy online because it is convenient. We all know, the landfills are just getting higher and deeper. Which is then contributing to global warming. Just take care of your things. If you're not going to wear it again, donate it. Go through your closet every season and donate it either to a nonprofit organization, or if it's stuff that has more value, consign it. Or even looking at other ways. I'm constantly looking at, as I said, I'm not a big t-shirt fan, but I'll think of ways to cut a t-shirt so I can wear it to yoga instead of buying a yoga shirt, helping out a family in need in your neighborhood. My daughter goes to a dare, and I have to tell you, we do the uniform swap, and I have not had to buy a uniform because of that. It's amazing, and they're all in great condition. So yeah, anything that you can do to just not put it in that trash bag, I think is great.
No matter where you're from, all around the world, it's one unique, one special vibe.
That was Holly Heenan from Another Chance. Thrift stores and consignment shops are such an important part of the circular economy for textiles. But what about the textiles that aren't really wearable anymore? Things with holes or stains or funny smells?
That's where businesses like Stitch and Destroy come in. They make clothes out of textiles or old clothes that can't have a second life in the condition they're currently in.
My name is Haven DeAngelis, and I'm the owner of Stitch and Destroy. So Stitch and Destroy is an upcycled alternative fashion brand. We make clothing and accessories out of textile waste. We're really committed to only using discarded clothes, dead stock fabrics, pretty much anything you might throw away or discard, and then create new clothes and accessories from them. But we are also a storefront and sell other clothes, accessories, collage kits, jewelry from other makers in the area. We carry over 25 other artists and designers that are local that repurpose and upcycle. I first learned to sew actually in home ec class all the way back in middle school. I think a lot of us learn to sew that way, or a parent teaches us. But I really just fell in love with it, and in high school I would take some sewing classes, some fashion design classes, and eventually I went to art school. I studied fiber arts at the Maryland Institute College of Art, and yeah, there I learned to really hone in on my skills of sewing, making upcycled clothing. I also learned the whole gamut of just fiber art, so I know how to weave, dye cloth, use a knitting machine. I know start from finish of how clothing and cloth is made. And I think that really inspired me to want to save material, keep things out of the landfill. I've also always been interested in sustainability, environmentalism, and just eco practices in general. So the textile industry is definitely one of the most polluting industries in our world, often cited as the second most polluting. I like to say the most polluting because there isn't always so many statistics around the extreme waste it produces and also just the pollution in general. So when textiles and garments are made, there's so much manufacturing that goes into it, from the cotton that is grown to any kind of synthetic fibers that are produced. They come from oil, so our oil industry is wrapped up into it. And then the whole processing and making of the cloth, there's a lot of people power that goes into it. Dyeing fabric is also very intensive on our water supply. So it's a huge industry, and the pollution that comes from it is also just the waste, excessive waste that comes off of the sewing and cutting production rooms. So it's producing hundreds and hundreds, thousands, millions of pounds of just waste every year. So not only are we producing tons of clothes, we are also discarding them at an enormous amount. In 2019, while I was still in college, I started Stitch and Destroy. Took a few entrepreneur classes in school, did a upstart venture competition where it was a entrepreneurship kind of competition school and won some funding. And then I moved to Philly in 2020 and really started my business. The name Stitch and Destroy, it's a little bit of a play on Search and Destroy. We're also very much like a punk rock, metal themed store, a very alternative music style. But There's an Iggy Pop song called Search and Destroy that kind of inspired me. But yeah, I thought of you're stitching up clothes that might be either destroyed or you're destroying textile waste. Could take on many things, but yeah, it's a fun name. And at the beginning, I was doing markets, vending at local pop-ups and fairs, upcycle clothing, so tops, pants. I do a lot of patchworking, so I'll cut up old clothes. One thing I love to do is take clothes that couldn't be given to a thrift store or sold again because there's stains or holes or rips. I'm able to cut those up, patchwork them into a new cloth, and then sew them into a garment. So for about 5 years, I was doing those vending and market pop-ups, and they got super popular during kind of the pandemic time when businesses had to close, but you still could be selling outdoors. And then it felt like a good transition to open a store, just so that we could not only move our studio out of our apartment into a storefront and have more space, but we also really wanted to get more involved in our community and teach people about textile waste and circular fashion. So I was really just working out of my apartment and sewing, and then last year in May of 2024, me and my partner opened the storefront. Every single piece is one of a kind. We do use dead stock fabric, so that's fabric that's coming from the fashion industry that didn't get used up when producing clothes. So sometimes there'll be like 5 yards left of a certain fabric, or sometimes there'll be even full bolts, like hundreds of yards left, which is crazy that would end up in the landfill or get burned, because it's still very usable. So there are a few pieces I'm able to make maybe like 2 of, but everything is pretty much one of a kind, especially the patchwork items.
Tell me about a typical garment.
It is most likely new. It came from a factory that produced it, and people produced it. There's definitely a misconception that our clothes are made by robots or machines. It is still definitely a person sitting behind that machine. And often a garment goes through multiple people. There's like factory production, so a lot of people are touching that garment. So that garment is sewn together, that cloth was already made. So there was already cotton grown for the t-shirt, there was water used, there was dyes that were mixed and then made that color of the t-shirt. And then it was sewn together. It was shipped to you from overseas most likely. So there's that pollution involved too. It's just the shipping process and the packaging of it. And then you might wear that t-shirt for a year or two, maybe more. I try to keep my garments as long as I can. And of course I'm unique in that I know how to make them new, but say you keep that shirt for 10 years. And maybe you get some stains and holes on it. You might want to donate it to a thrift store, but because it's ripped up, stained, you can't. So you're most likely going to throw it away. And then that t-shirt's going to end up in the landfill, or a lot of our waste system is also incinerated, so it might be burned either way. If you did give it to a thrift store and it was stained, had holes, it's probably not going to sell at that thrift store, so they're going to ship it to the global south, where it's going to sit in their waterways or in a landfill, or they're also just going to trash it. So it's going to end up in some kind of landfill, and then the cycle pretty much ends with that shirt. It's polluting whatever land or it's just sitting there and it no longer has a use. But if that t-shirt came to us, we would be able to cut it up, patchwork it together, make a new shirt. We would, those areas with the holes or stains, we might avoid those areas, but we're still going to keep those scraps. After we create our product that gets sold and worn by a new person, so that t-shirt that was already worn for 10 years is now living hopefully for another 10 years, if not more. I keep every scrap that I come across, and we're trying to work with a fabric shredder right now to see if we could produce our own shoddy, which is a fiber fill that you can use to stuff, kind of like a stuffing. for cushions, couches. But yeah, we save every scrap that we can, and we don't want to see anything end up in the landfill. Before we moved into the store and studio, our apartment was just, bins and bins of fabric just piled on top of each other. And people want to give you their old clothes. There is no shortage in the amount of material that we can get. And we still are struggling a little bit with just keeping up the space in here, even though we have so much more room. We're still, kind of overflowing in the amount of fabric. In the store, we also carry about 25 other local artists and designers that upcycle in some way. We have about, I would say, 10 or so clothing designers who either screen print on old clothes. They might also do a similar thing where they're constructing full pieces. Some of our designers will also take an old clothing item and put a little like patchwork design on it. So not necessarily creating a very brand new garment, but still using textile waste. And then we also have a few artists in store. We sell collage packs from the Teal Appeal. They're local to Philadelphia. We sell also recycled plastic coasters and plant pots from Philly Plastico. We also have really fun charm jewelry earrings of like little Happy Meal toys that they created into earrings. We have earrings that are also made from bowling balls, vinyl records. And we also have a fun little DIY section where we carry craft kits, crafting books, and also patches that you could either sew onto a jacket or mend an existing garment. We also carry a little assortment of vintage and secondhand clothing that we come across that we feel is too nice to cut up and make something new out of. So sometimes people will donate items that we come across to put in our vintage section. We also love this one. It's called Bulk Vintage Warehouse in North Philadelphia. And they sell just like, they have bins and bins of just vintage and secondhand clothing. It's open to mostly like businesses, retailers, wholesalers to buy vintage clothes. And they also carry an assortment of stuff that not necessarily like vintage sellers would want because they do need some mending. So we also like to get a hold of those. So vintage is super popular to buy right now, and a big part of it is because of the quality. So a lot of times our vintage or antique clothes were made either by hand, by someone locally. It was also made with better quality material. Say like a sweater, it might have in the past been made from wool or cotton, and now it's being made from polyester, synthetic fabrics that are going to degrade over time. They might be not very nice on your skin. They have that like plasticky feeling, and they're a lot harder to mend a lot of the times because they rip more easily. You'll get more holes, where something like wool, like it could be felted and reworked in a way. So I think the biggest contributor to why clothing is no longer made really well is because of just the fast fashion industry. Companies are trying to produce as much clothing as possible to keep up with trends and season changes, and just trying to get people to wear new garments and buy more. So clothes are being produced in a more cheap manner. So a lot of people will think that, oh, you're returning clothes, it's going back on the shelves, someone else is buying it. But often businesses, stores can't process the amount of returns that they're receiving, especially if it's just hundreds of returns they're getting. So they eventually either will just throw that away, it'll go into the dumpsters, go to the landfill, could also be incinerated so that it gets burned and no longer wearable. There's also a lot of just dumping of textile waste in the global south. There's mountains and mountains of just clothing in other countries that are not ours, and it's causing a lot of pollution in their waterways and in their land. So returns are not necessarily a sustainable way to get rid of your clothes. It's much better to either try something on, make sure it fits, make sure you like it, and then if it's not fitting right, if you can't wear it, maybe try to mend it, get it altered. Dry cleaners are everywhere, and a lot of them do alterations. It's something that everyone knows about. And also, you could always upcycle it, create something new, or host a clothing swap or give it to a friend. Like, people also probably would like the garment that you thought you might like. But something we do at Stitch and Destroy is every other month we host clothing swaps, where the public can come, bring their clothes that they don't want anymore, trade amongst each other, take just clothes that people are discarding, and usually we're left over with a decent amount at the end that we either save for the next clothing swap, we cut up and make into new clothes, or if it's something that's super cool, we might add to that secondhand vintage rack. We host about 1 to 2, sometimes 3 workshops per month. Typically they involve sewing, fiber arts, some kind of sustainability-oriented art practice. Our most popular one is our Intro to Machine Sewing class, where we teach people how to use a sewing machine, how to thread the machine, and then they practice stitching and they make a tote bag at the end. But we've also held paper making classes in the past using the paper waste that comes from pattern making when making garments. There's sometimes extra paper that comes off of that, and you can make a paper pulp and then make new paper from that. So we've hosted paper making classes. We also have a collage class coming up with one of the artists we carry in store, and she's going to teach about the history of collage making and how to create your own. But yeah, the classes are really fun, and that was also something why we wanted to open the store and studio, is so that people could have access to learn how to use a sewing machine. They could see me making the clothes in the store and really see the whole process of how clothing is made, and it's not just by machines. When we start off our sewing classes, I love to get a sense of where everyone is at in their ability. And one of the most common answers is either I learned this in home ec class way long ago when I was young and haven't touched a sewing machine, or it's something like my grandma taught me because she was really into sewing, but it was much easier for me to buy my own clothes, and now I want to learn the skill. But yeah, the age range is pretty varied in our classes. We've had like people in their 20s to people in their 70s and already retired and want to pick up a new skill. It's a fun class to take and just get a sense of why everyone wants to learn how to sew, whether it's mending their clothes, a lot of people want to alter, or they've seen something on social media and they want to learn how to make that garment. We also host sewing workshops that require a little more intermediate skill level. So if they've taken our Intro to Machine Sewing class, they can take other sewing classes that we offer. We just want to make sure that they know how to thread the machine and operate it, because that definitely is something to get used to. So yeah, we have had people take our tote bag making class and then come back for our denim bucket hat making workshop. So it's really fun to see those students grow in their skills and become more interested in sewing. Or that we have people come back for our clothing swap because they learned how to sew and they want to make their own garments and alter them. To create sustainable fashion without using secondhand materials, you definitely probably would go with a natural fiber. Hemp has always been one of those fibers that people speak highly about because it's less water intensive. It can grow in drier climates. Flax, which makes linen, that one's also uses less water to harvest and create the fiber. Cotton, of course, is something that people gravitate towards, but that one uses a ton of water and also uses a ton of pesticides. So yeah, not only is it tons of water is being used, but also tons of chemicals are being put on these plants, and it's a monoculture plant too. So where you're having just vast fields of land is being used to just one type of crop. So these tiny farms like flax farms, hemp farms, so supporting your local farmers, of course, is a sustainable way. So they would make those fibers to then be processed and created into kind of yarn that you would weave or knit with to create the cloth itself. I mean, basically to create sustainable fashion, you need to become as local as possible. Using natural fibers, using natural dyes is a great way to, instead of using synthetic dyes, but of course natural dyes are still toxic in some ways. There's sometimes heavy metals used to create the dye color. There's still a ton of water being used. So you might see like sustainable fashion being like a lot of beige and like cream colors. It's the color of basically the natural plant. And then, yeah, you would use local manufacturing to create the garment for yourself. And you might have that garment even tailored to your size so it fits you well and will last you. But also to say, this is really expensive to do. If you're going to buy garments that are made truly locally and in a sustainable, in a way that pays people as well, it's going to be really expensive because it's a lot to make a garment. A lot goes into it. And that's personally why I gravitate towards upcycling and just using what we already have and what's already been produced. And there's so much fabric already made that I really believe we don't need to make the amount that we're creating anymore. We need to start using what we already have. So honestly, one of the most cheapest ways you can make a new garment is just using old clothes. And it's one of the best, most sustainable ways because you're using what's already been made. You're not creating any new resources and you're not discarding any resources. We come across a lot of t-shirts that are for that 5K you wore. Yeah, like different like high school events. I'm sure like while we were all in school, we got 20 t-shirts for whatever field day we were participating in or some kind of fun run. And those t-shirts, you might wear for a year, you might wear those to bed. They're not like something you want to wear out all the time. And we come across a lot of those and we find those shirts, they're not super fun to make into a new garment. That graphic isn't well liked. But one thing we do is we make it into a t-shirt shopping bag. So if a customer forgets to bring their bag when they're making a purchase, we have these t-shirts sewn together into a new bag that they can use to carry out their purchase. Stitch and Destroy is located on 4th Street, so just down the block. When you go past South Street, there's historic Fabric Row. And Fabric Row has really transformed over the years. Used to have a ton of fabric stores. You could go buy your fabric, your sewing supplies. Now there's only a few, but a really cool thing is that there's a ton of vintage and secondhand stores that have popped up on the street. So it's still keeping with that fashion sustainability world. I would say South Street and 4th Street are like a huge hub for just secondhand and vintage in general in our city. One place we love to source our sewing supplies is at the Resource Exchange, which is located in the Kensington area. But the Resource Exchange is a wonderful resource for secondhand art and craft supplies. They have sewing supplies, paints, fabric, yarn. So even our threads, buttons, zippers, we source secondhand. We've also sourced material from Rabbit Recycling. They used to be located up in East Kensington area. They just recently moved to West Philly, and it's a great resource to also get materials because they offer everything for free. If you don't know what Rabbit Recycling is, they're a private recycling service. So they will give you a bin or bucket to fill up with basically anything that you're looking to get rid of. They have a huge accepted materials list. And then it all gets sorted by hand by their employees. And a lot of the stuff that they get is still great and usable, and it's a perfect source of material for artists and just like people that are looking to get stuff secondhand for free. I've been interested in the sustainable world of Philadelphia. There's so many small businesses in Philly that are dedicated to sustainability and circularity, and Circular Philadelphia kind of came up in my research. But they were also looking for people to give insight into a new tool they just came out with, Resource Philly. And it's a search engine that allows you to look up where to discard things you no longer want, or to even find things secondhand. So they were putting out surveys, and taking that survey, you could become a member. So I thought that was like a great way to kind of branch into that group. And I really have enjoyed my time going to the meetings and different events they've hosted. They have really fun member meetings, and they also have smaller working groups within their membership. So I'm part of the textile working group. There's a lot of professors in that group that teach fashion, just local citizens that are interested in textile production and how Philly can do better. So it's a neat group. We're still working out what we want to focus on for this year. Going to the membership meetings, you meet a lot of people that not necessarily are in your industry, but they are interested in how to make our world better, how to make the economy better, and using like used materials is such a shared experience. So whether you're composting or recycling, trying to find new uses for vacant lots or old buildings, it all relates to each other. I think people are really starting to become more aware of the impact the fashion industry has on our environment, and also just people's working conditions in the textile industry are so terrible often that they want to support healthier practices. So people are really interested in learning how to sew their clothes to kind of stop that cycle from happening. When you make your own clothes, you're not contributing to that fast fashion cycle that's happening. Or even if you buy a fast fashion garment, but you can keep it for 10 plus years, that's amazing. Like, not discarding it after a couple of wears, but being able to know how to mend it, to sew it, to add to it is just something I think people are starting to become more interested in. And I think we're like, ourselves, we see our closets, we see how much clothing we have, and I think there's this interest of both like minimalism, trying to live a more sustainable life in that way too, that people are wanting to like preserve their clothes. But yeah, I think social media is playing a huge role in how people are learning about the fast fashion industry, and not wanting to contribute to it, because it is like something that's just so wrapped up in every part of our lives, from the manufacturing of the clothes to the industries that are within the actual fast fashion industry, and then just like what to do after your clothes are worn out. I think that's also why people are caring about clothes, is because it is such a part of ourselves. It's how we present ourselves to the world. It's basically our second skin. And to know how to alter, mend, and make it your own is really important and an empowering skill to have.
That was Haven DeAngelis of Stitch and Destroy on Fabric Row.
Thanks to Haven and Holly for diving deeper into how clothing and textiles can be reused through thrifting and consignment. For more information on Stitch and Destroy, visit stitchanddestroy.com. And for more information on Another Chance, visit them on Instagram at anotherchance_Fishtown.
Join us for episode 7, where we'll wander into the wonderfully weird world of salvage. The Circle Up podcast is presented by Circular Philadelphia. It was produced by Meredith Nutting at Cool Goon Productions. This podcast was supported by a grant from Penn Treaty Special Services District. If you want to learn more about the circular economy, go to circularphiladelphia.org.